So up next, it's a pleasure and an honor, in fact. I've never had this opportunity to introduce actually two people that I have, that I actually worked with and for in some capacity in an earlier part of my career. And two people I consider to be human leaders, visionaries, and just incredible people. Judy Jackson is a former mentor and boss of mine. She is the reason I made the switch from account into HR. She continues to be an inspiration to me from afar. So Judy Jackson is the Global Talent Officer at Wonderman. Seth Solomons. Met him years ago. I used to work at Wonderman myself. I believe you were an account supervisor back when I started. He is now the CEO of Wonderman. So it's my pleasure to introduce you and to leave you in their hands. They're gonna have a conversation about, can I be honest with you?
Thank you,
Are we on? Are we mic'd?
We are mic'd. Okay.
Judy.
Can I be honest? What is here? It's here. It's here. My voice is loud enough.
Judy Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Judy Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. Keisha did that already.
So what we want to show is that we go way back, and I mean way back. Not so way back for me apparently, but way back for Seth.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a shame, right? Shows
I was
age.
scared or something.
But you gotta admit, he looks a lot better now.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys agree, right? Don't you think he looks a lot
It can't look much worse than that.
We won't.
I actually have my original ID card, and I used it at a town hall when I spoke to the North America team. And it's interesting, I never noticed until I looked back at it about 2 years ago. They misspelled my name on the original ID. And maybe that was why I looked so scared to join Wonderman the first time. But yes, we do go way back, Judy. We go way back, like 24 years. And I think it's kind of an unfair advantage for us having not only a friendship, but a platonic love affair. We have
you got that
really
right.
grown up together in the business as people, as parents, as friends, and now as the people entrusted to help lead Wonderman into the future.
So I want to just say, when we actually, our careers, so we were at Wonderman for, I guess I was there around 5 years, you were there
8
longer.
years.
And then we both ended up at Digitas together. And then, interestingly enough, off and on for 12 years, because I was at Digitas, left for a little while, at a time, came back. So we were together off and on for about 12 years at Digitas. Then, ironically, we both ended up at IPG together. And then when Mark Reed, the CEO of Wonderman, was beginning to build his leadership team, and we'd met and had dinner, and he was asking about people that could lead North America as a CEO. And he said, do you know Seth Solomons? And I'm like, do I know Seth? And I said he'd be the perfect CEO to make change at Wonderman. And if Seth could join Wonderman, you could count me in, because that's the place where I want to be.
Yeah, it was thank you for that. Judy and I had a conversation. I was in Greece on vacation with my wife in the summer of 2015. And Judy was sort of trying to figure out what was next for her. And I had already committed to Mark, or was close to committing to Mark.
Yet.
And it was really a wonderful thing for us to be plotting the next chapter of our career together, and to be so strongly positive as we entered that together. It's very interesting for me, and maybe something that I take for granted every day, is having the friendship and the support, unconditional support of a talent professional. And more than a talent professional, but a life coach and somebody who looks out for you. I can't tell you how many times Judy has called me to say, you should do this. And I would say, I don't want to do that. And she would say, no, it's good for your brand.
Yes.
Do that.
That's
And she was right every time. And just the recognition of yourself as a brand and the positivity with which she's always sort of imbued that on me, but also everybody else, is part of what makes her so special.
Well, one of the things I heard earlier, people were talking about, how do you get your senior leaderships to come on board? Right? Do some of you have that sort of question about how do you get that to come on? And what's hard for me to understand is that I've been so lucky, in most cases, certainly not all. Some of you have worked with me in some of those, not all cases, but in most cases, I've worked with people who had the same mindset, or we came through the similar journey, like with Seth and I, so you could talk shorthand. And there are many times, Seth, who, I handle global, but I also oversee North America as well. And there are times that I will ask Seth, I think we should do X. And I don't need a spreadsheet or a presentation. I just need to give him my heart and my head and just say, this is what I think we should do. And Seth will say, well, if you think it's the right thing to do, then I'm right behind you. And it's sometimes, at the first, when we started to do that at Wonderman, it took me a little bit aback. Like, is that easy?
but real change, though. I mean, things like maternity policies and things that I just trust that her instincts and experience are the right place for us to get to.
So our topic is about, can I be honest? And it's funny because I think that word around honesty has come up a few times in this session today, probably more so than I've heard in other sessions in the past. When I rejoined Wonderman, what happened was I would, like you would expect, right? You meet with people in New York, Singapore, Chicago, Atlanta, the UK, and I'd ask people, I haven't been here in 15 years, what's it like? And language, besides the point, there were 4 words that each person said. Can I be honest? And when it happened in Singapore, I thought, now something's wrong here, right? I mean, what does it mean to you when someone says, even if it's a friend that says, can I be honest? What does that mean to you? Bad news. Right, it means either bad news or there's some distrust, right? So I said, that's telling me something about the company, and I'm hearing it consistently. And then I asked about our performance management systems, because us HR people want to know about those goddamn, I'm sorry. He counseled me on the cursing.
We're live on Facebook, dude. Yeah, she's like, you can't say this, don't say that.
You have to.
Uncontrollable.
Okay. But see, that's about honesty, bringing your honest self and being accepted for that. But one of the things I saw was that we had this cornerstone clunky system in some of the markets, and you know what? I have never been a fan of performance reviews. I put them in. I put in Silk Roads. I put in our home. Who's from Digitas? Our own GDP systems, right? Yes, I was a champion of all those things, but quite frankly, as an employee, when I had my conversation with my boss, I didn't sleep that night. And after that conversation, I didn't sleep because what I focused on is what I didn't do right. And my husband would try to tell me, but look! And I could only focus on what I didn't do right. And I said, my God, aren't we supposed to be creating a motivating culture? So coming to Wonderman, I said, let's just change the game.
But Judy, so this notion of honesty, so for me, the luxury of having you as a partner since 1994, you've always been an advocate of people above everything else. You've been an advocate of something that I take credit for, which is this notion of no secrets. I tell people I created that, but she created that. But this notion of transparency, overt caring, where does that come from? Is there a mentor? Is there a situation? We never talked about why that's your orientation, but it so strongly is your orientation.
You asked me that, and he prepared me for that question, and I didn't prepare myself for an answer because I said I'd probably start crying. And then he said, that's okay. But for me, it's how are we who we are, right? Is there like sometimes there's that one thing. But sometimes there's a lot of little things that build up to who we are, because I think we have the luxury of HR people of dealing with people. And so we have an opportunity to bring our baggage and empathy with us. So from losing my parents at an early age, from losing my sister and brother at an early age, from adopting my sister's child when I was 24 years old, from working with CEOs who, coming from Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, I felt I didn't belong, from leaving Digitas to go to Essence magazine, which is a black woman's magazine, where I finally felt, oh my God, I'm walking around these black women. Some got braids, some got afros, some got white hair, as Seth likes to say. But you know what I mean? I was like, my God, I feel I've arrived. You know, I feel at home. And all of those experiences make us who we are, to the point that we realize that life is short, that we spend a lot of time at work, that what a gift we can give someone. And for me, I think the gift, I don't know, Keisha may have had a different experience, but for me, my epiphany was really at Essence, to say how different it feels when you feel like you could be yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like you don't waste as much time, you take risks, you do something different, and then I was able to bring that back to Digitas when I returned. But where did it start? It started from seeing people around me die, and wanting to leave a legacy, and wanting to make life meaningful. And what's the best way to make life meaningful? Is to bring life at work and bring who you are, because we spend so much time there. And so, those are the tears. Those are the tears inside. So, but the good part is that you have partners like Seth and Mark Reed, who's our global CEO, who allow me to say shit like that and say shit. You know what I mean? And that it's because, you know, the other day, I don't know what we were talking about, Seth, and you said, I did something, I don't remember what it was, and I was telling you, wow, it was just so great to be myself, and you said, that's good that you finally could feel that way. I mean, Seth would always tease me when we'd go out to lunch. You know, I am sloppy. And I told him he can't say it, but I can. So I will, like, the other night we were in the airport, and we were drinking. I had a cocktail all on my white shirt. I had food from guacamole. He was taking the napkin and wiping it off. But you know what? I didn't feel bad. Like, normally if in front of a CEO, wouldn't you feel a little embarrassed? Like you look like an idiot? But I knew I looked like an idiot, but it was okay. So Seth, what about you, honesty? Why is that important to you? And because you've shared this journey with me. No, I'm good. You've shared, and it'd be typical.
Yeah. She tumbles backwards. This whole thing goes a different way.
See how he looks out.
Yeah, I think, you know, so I think there are lots of different inflection points, obviously, for all of us as we go through our career. For me, spending time at Digitas was probably the most formative for me, becoming a person and ultimately a leader. And 2004, I got the opportunity to start Digitas Health, and built a team. We spent 2 years building a business. Then we went out and we bought a company called Medical Broadcasting Company in Philadelphia. We merged that into our business. We created what became a very big entity and still is for the Publicis Group. So on the back of that success, I was promoted to Global Chief Marketing Officer. It was the first global CMO role for Digitas, and I was sort of feeling really good about myself. And it was like sort of, yes, tough to walk into rooms with my head, things of that nature. And I remember sitting down with my boss, Laura Lang, at the time, and I sat down, and all I expected her to do was say, like, great job, here's what I need you to do, go hit it out of the park for me. And she said, congratulations, I'm getting you a coach. And I said, are you kidding? I'm good. I don't need a coach. What do I need a coach for? And I wound up getting a coach, and it was the most transformational thing of my life as a person and as a professional. It was pretty humbling because I had spent most of my career doing everything I could to get ahead, work harder, work longer, demonstrate that I cared more, try to take care of my people better, and then I was sort of getting all of this constructive feedback. And I remember going off-site, this beautiful apartment overlooking the West Side Highway and the water, and I spent a full day, literally
One
7
full day.
and a half hours of 81 pages of feedback. Now, I don't know if any of you have gotten 81 pages of feedback, but that's a lot of feedback. And it was, it was an inflection point for me. It was an opportunity to either continue to be a little bit arrogant and look at the feedback and think, these people don't know what they're doing or talking about, or to take on all of the feedback and let it sort of shape who I was as a person and as a leader and as a professional. And I've never been the same person after that day. I listen differently. I look at people in rooms differently. I think more about other people's feelings versus my own. And it was transformational for my marriage and my career.
And what's brave is that you talk about that.
That's true.
And that's hard. And I don't know if I know of anyone else who have taken that feedback so to heart that you did, and you often revert back to that as a continuous lesson of sort of a checks and balances.
Yep.
But enough about us, right? We came to talk about sort of the culture we're trying to create. And I say trying because, we look at Seth Explains, Wonderman, it's really now, I guess, a 59 or 60-year-old startup in a sense. When Mark Reed came on board, we sort of revamped the whole organization, changed the whole leadership team, pretty much 89 to 90%. So we're really kind of starting all over. When I started as an HR person there, leading it, I was the only person there for Wonderman, and so we had to start all over. So in terms of this, how I can be honest, I'm going to show with you a video of how this sort of evolved. And it's around having honest conversations. So we took out the performance management formal systems, and we asked people to get back to basics. We asked people to have conversations with their managers and to have them off-site. The beauty about being off-site is we felt that it's a way to be more real. There's something about taking a walk. You can go to lunch or have coffee, but there's something about that getting out the four walls that allows people, I think, to be a bit more free. So that's part of the beauty around what we call U-Time. And so U-Time has started with Because Conversations Matter, which is around these conversations around how are you doing at your work? What do you want to focus on in 2018? How can I help you as your manager? And very importantly, what do you want personally for yourself? Whether it's, I need to leave Mondays early to make that spin class, or I need to spend a day a week doing volunteer work because that's really important to me. But what are those things that you don't talk about that are not really work related? But if we could do that, would make your life more enriching. So let me just show you a little bit about how our U-Time has evolved from Because Conversations Matter to other things that's come out of it as well. Video. Last year, we introduced a number of initiatives, and we now want to show you how those programs have impacted Wonderman. U-Time is our global talent strategy, and it's about making sure we recognize the full person that comes to work every day, and that we value not just what you do, but who you are.
The dialogue can become more free, it's not so formal. I don't feel like I'm on the record.
It's been an opportunity to discuss the things that inspire me. It's created a culture of continuous feedback time and time again.
And I set out some very clear goals with my manager. It gave me a clear sense of what I wanted to achieve in the next year, both professionally and personally.
The time had come to really think about women in terms of professional development, personal development.
Getting to the core of what do you value in your life, what are the things you want to see happen in your life, and giving you the confidence to go ahead and make those things happen.
What I enjoyed the most about Pass It On was the opportunity to bond with other Wonderman ladies in the region.
I was able to really focus on me and my career. I'm now also able to bring it back to the women of St. Louis and pass it on to them.
It was just so great to be able to sit in a forum where we can openly talk about things that were important to us.
Wonderman has an exciting exchange program called USwap.
All our employees get a unique opportunity to explore the foreign branches of the company for 2 weeks.
Each month, at least 2 people grab this chance.
And this month, it is us.
You will visit a new city, meet new people and develop new ideas. USwap is a marvelous idea because this way we learn to collaborate and share know-how, ideas and inspiration.
For my team, coalitions set the common grounds for creative collaboration.
It's not the separate approaches, like there's a strategic approach and a creative approach. It's a Wonderman approach.
I'm glad I work at a company like Wonderman that recognizes the real you.
Next slide. So U Times started off with Because Conversations Matter. And then we realized that there was a movement happening to affect the whole culture. So we began to talk about women and how do we make women feel more comfortable being their selves, being their true self. We did some focus groups with women. We did an employee survey called Today for Tomorrow through a company called Perceptics. And we got some learnings, but what we found more than anything else is that what was holding women back, at least from our assessment, was a feeling of confidence, a feeling that they can have a voice. So Pass It On is where we began with taking last year 150 women off site globally at a retreat, really much sort of self-reflection and helping them to come back to the workplace to pass on their learnings. And those learnings could be about what they want for their next step, the epiphany that I want to be a CEO, or the epiphany that I want a divorce. But whatever that epiphany was that was keeping you from being your best self, this is what Pass It On was meant to do. USwap was a program that when I joined Wonderman, my CEO, Mark, said we need a millennial talent strategy. And what we found is that when talking to people in different countries and regions, particularly our more younger talent, they felt like they were in silos. Wonderman grew through acquisition, not so much through organic growth. We have 10,000 employees at this point, and that's a lot of folks. But what people felt was that, but in my office of 250 people in Seattle, I don't know what's happening in Chicago or the UK. So we then created a program of USwap where employees in like jobs can swap jobs for a period of time to help bring that learning. And then finally, Collision, which is a way of working, which is really about collaboration. And it kind of talks to diversity as well. The other definition of diversity in terms of diversity of thought, and making sure that teams coming together are different mindsets, different roles, come together early on to bring the best work for clients. So all of this is part of this sort of U-Time strategy, which is creating an environment where the focus is on developing the best you, the best authentic you, and making it a place where you feel that you can belong.
Yeah, I think there's a very overt gesture here to the people that make Wonderman what it is. And that is more than intentional. Everything we do every single day is in support of the people that make Wonderman a special place. So I love the orientation as Judy has articulated it, and I think if you go to the next slide, it's a key pivot point for us in terms of where we're headed.
So you've all talked about diversity and inclusion, and we've talked about how diversity and inclusion has evolved from diversity being about really numbers, and inclusion, which is really about inviting those numbers to the table. But it doesn't necessarily mean those numbers that are at the table feel that they have a voice or feel that they belong. So our journey, and we don't have the answers all yet, some we're working on, it's a journey for us, but we're moving the conversation from diversity and inclusion to a culture of belonging. And our hope is that, or our premise is that, if you create the right place, the people will come. Versus in other organizations that I've worked, be it ABC, BBDO, Time Inc., the focus was so much on this, but we didn't focus so much on this. So trying to focus equally on this as we do on this.
I think there are beliefs, excuse me, that if you're going to be a creative culture, then you're a creative culture. And the people are in service of the culture that drives creativity. And a lot of that culture of creativity is chaos. And it's very hard to put people at the center of that because, as we'll talk about in terms of some of the things that are working, those organizations are turning 33, 35, 38% of people out of the organization every year. There is a very overt desire for us to create a place where people want to be, where people feel like they can do the best work of their career. And that's our job. Our job is to make sure that if you join Wonderman, you have visibility to where your future might be going, but most importantly, you know what the bar is, and you know that you're safe in trying to deliver on that ambition. So for us, everything we do is oriented around making sure that we are where we need to be, as Judy said, on the numbers. But if people want to come to work every day and want to be a part of what we're building, then we've got an unfair advantage. And that's what we're 3 years into. And as she said, we don't have all the answers, but some of the metrics, I think, are starting to bear that out.
And I just also want to add that what it does, it changes the conversations with leaders. It's interesting, some of my most senior leaders that are global leaders did not understand what the definition of what, to Keisha's point earlier, of what diversity is, what inclusion is, and the kind of culture we want to create. And once we got to that, they understood it. And I think we take some things so for granted, that there was a journey that's happened over the last 30 or more years that we haven't all carried each other along. So in terms of whether or not it's working?
Yeah, I mean, I think, numbers to some extent paint part of the picture. So I'll just give you a little bit of where we are at Wonderman. So when we joined, a roughly $850 million company with about 7,000 people. Today, given some acquisitions and some mergers, closer to 1.35 billion and 10,000 people. So we're not talking about a small movement here. Like we have to move a very big set of people to be where we need them to be intellectually and sort of personally as it relates to their orientation. So, one thing we look at hard is attrition. Are we a place where people want to be? And again, we've all managed voluntary and involuntary. We could make these numbers be whatever you want them to be, as you know. The reality is we've done everything we could to scrub it so that we think it's an accurate reflection. There is no WPP saying to us, you need to be at X%. We're saying, where are we? And then now we're really interrogating why we're where we are. And some inside of my team would argue that we may be too low right now in terms of creating a culture where everybody feels they belong, and unfortunately everybody doesn't share the same ambition, and we've got to be helping people in and out of the organization because we want them to be successful in whatever they do. But super proud of the progress that we've made. And then I think, again, it goes back to creating a culture of belonging, a place where people want to be. The business goes with it. So when I joined, and my objectives are the same, the first three things that I focused on were people, team, and culture. Go get the right people, create a team environment, and a culture that people wanted to be a part of. Second, work and clients. The belief that if you've got a set of clients that people want to work on and you're doing great work, you're going to be in a better place. And then last, financially. But in a market where you see WPP and the rest of the holding companies struggling at -2 to flat, we've got an organization organically growing 5% over the last 2 years, and we think that we can be in the 5 to 8% or more going forward. And a lot of that is just people wanting to believe and be a part of the change that we're making. Now, what's the next?
Apporting.
Yeah, the other thing is, you want to be a place where people want to work, and that means interesting clients, interesting problems, and brands that people look up to. So, over the last 2.5 years, we've been able to add a significant amount of new clients and new assignments inside of those clients because we're very focused on bringing on new talent, but also simplifying what we are asking from that talent. So I focus on 2 things: add value and build trust. And that's add value internally as well as externally. Help clients win. Be curious about their business and genuinely do everything you can to help them. And then build trust. If people trust you, they will give you almost anything they have because they want you to help them succeed. So that's the simple formula that we're using inside of this culture. We don't look at culture as a 3rd or 4th objective. We look at culture as the embodiment of everything that we do. And I think that's, for me, a more productive way to look at it. But it's meant a lot to the way that we present ourselves. There are many more people walking with swagger and confidence inside of the organization. And as you know, positivity goes a long way. If people approach problems with positive intent, they're listening with positivity, it changes everything inside of what can be a very political and insecure environment that we work in. So, some parting shots. First and foremost, and this goes back to, my leaving Syracuse and believing that to win, I had to outwork anybody and everybody. And I think, I do that as much as my wife might not love it, but, you're never done. I mean, if you love what you do, somebody earlier was talking about work-life balance. I've always had a problem with work-life balance because I feel like I have total balance because I love what I do, and I am thinking about it all the time. So why would I need a program that regulated my life in terms of the balance? So I would just say, you're never done, you're never finished. We're just starting, and we're 60 years old.
So one of my parting thoughts is to ask the tough questions. Very often we do things that we've always done, it's comfortable, or we see the next shiny object and think that's going to be the solution. But I'd say step back and ask the tough question that, does this really work? Is this really motivating your workplace? Is this something that you would do if you could do anything else? So take a moment and ask the tough questions. And be honest with yourself. We're telling people to be honest. I often have to check myself to make sure that I'm honest with the people that work with me, that work for me, that I support, that I'm honest about whether or not something is really working or not. It makes you hard on yourself, but I think it makes you a better self.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be disruptive. I've again, had the luxury of having Judy as a talent partner for much of my career, and that has enabled me to try to disrupt the conventions. I've worked for people like Mitch Kurz, Laura Lang, David Kenny, who accepted the fact that I was there to ask tough questions, as Judy said, but also to disrupt, to create new things. And I would say to every single one of you, shame on your business leader, CEO, if they're not open to you helping them disrupt what is currently maybe not working as well as it can.
Finding the balance between technology and human touch. The other day I got a thank you card from someone, a written thank you card in the mail. I treasure that. I get, you get the emails, right? But there's something lovely about the human touch. U-Time is about the human touch. Go off-site, have a conversation, have a walk, have a coffee. Doesn't have to be a lunch. But there's something beautiful about the human touch. Having a 16-year-old who is addicted to her phone. And I say, Janae, mommy's here. But there's this, just don't forget that. Using technology to enable. So with U-Time, for example, we're developing an app that will allow an employee and a manager to state, I had my U-Time conversation, yes, no, rate it 1 to 5, how was it, and then any next steps as a result. So we do want technology, but we do want it to be very simple, user-friendly, and meaningful, not just for the sake of technology. And I think this is you.
Yeah, stay curious and current. I think ultimately, if you love what you do, you continue to pursue how you get better at it. And I think curiosity goes well with positivity. I think those two things, if you look at things with curiosity always and you bring positivity to it, you're going to get to the right place.
And I'm curious why this looks like that, but anyway.
Yeah,
and just, I mean, you guys know this, but just remember that it's a people business. Sometimes we can admire our own processes, right? And forget about why we're really here and what we're really trying to do, and the product and asset that we really have, which is people. So let's just remind ourselves of that as much as we can. And we have 2 minutes and 45 seconds if anyone wants to use it. Do we have any questions?
Hi. There is so much to admire in terms of the dynamic between you and the mutual respect, and obviously that's been cultivated over many years in different positions, but I think a number of us can probably relate to a lack of that in terms of HR relationships with executives, and I just wonder if you have any words of wisdom for us in terms of how to proactively on our side cultivate that kind of appreciation, strategic partnership that may not come as readily to less developed relationships with executives.
Yeah, I would say what Judy has always done well, and I get the fact, because we had a talent offsite and we heard similar situations in terms of people in our organization not having a lot of openness. I think you need to find a place where you can be helpful and complimentary. But I think the beauty of Judy for me is that she's never trying to be what she thinks I want her to be. And I think, people need to respect you for what you bring and your point of view. And if they don't, then it's probably not the right place for you to be. So my advice would be to respectfully push yourself forward, be honest, and be overt about the fact that you want to help. And ask how you can help, as opposed to maybe pushing yourself into situations. I think good leaders know that they don't have the answers to every question, or their orientation may not be right for every solution. So, I've had somebody who has not been afraid to be honest with me, and over time, maybe I take that for granted, but it's a huge, huge luxury. And I will send notes to her to ask her about things, conversations with my boss, with clients, because I respect her perspective. And I think you got to look at that as something that you earn over time. But I would be honest and put yourself in a position to be accepted or not, and then you got to decide whether it's a place where you want to be. I would tell you to run from anybody who doesn't respect you.
And I have run before. Mike, they want you to have a mic. Okay.
So given your unique relationship or your very complementary relationship, do you ever find that gets in the way or maybe has a perception of how like your direct reports or other people that you support or just employees within the agency feel that they can come and talk to you openly about an agency concern or come and talk to you about a general HR concern or how HR shows up?
Well, the good news is that I don't report to Seth. We're colleagues. So we both report to Mark Reed, the global CEO, and I think that helps sort of put the level playing field in. I mean, it's sometimes a challenge for me and Seth because we report to the same person, and I may have conversations with Mark Reed that might have impact with Seth and have to balance how to handle that because I love him. So it's like any marriage, right? It can be it's not always as easy as it seems. For the rest of the population, I think they're more in awe than anything else. We take it so naturally the way we banter that I remember we were in Austin and people were saying, "Wow, the way you two act," and I'm like, "How do we act?"
Yeah,
I didn't even.
Mostly you were inappropriate. Mostly you were inappropriate.
Well,
yeah.
I guess I just don't.
I
even
will
see
say
it.
though, I will say though, when we joined, I think Mark was worried about our relationship. I think Mark was.
He didn't tell me that.
Well, I think he was.
Now I know.
We did talk about it. No, just in terms of how much time you spent
okay.
with me. Sort of this perception that, North America. She has 4 children, 4 regions. I'm one of those regions, but we have a very close relationship. And, Mark needs to see Judy equally distributed. Yet there's such a bond here that I think he was worried at the outset that she and I wouldn't be able to. Or she wouldn't be able to give the same focus to the other regions. But I think ultimately, we're both professionals, and that dissipates. But yeah, there are situations with the staff. I think people like the fact that there's trust, and that trust starts at the highest level, and that makes them feel. I would hope, and maybe there are some people.
Well, there's some people that work here. What do they think?
That it's a safer environment.
Who wants to be bold? Oh, my bold one, bold millennial. Okay, bold millennial. What do you think? You sit near Seth and I. Does it look?
Alex is gonna. Good luck.
Oh, God. Thanks, guys.
This is my bold millennial.
Well, I think I've never been intimidated to talk to either of you.
But no, that's not fair.
What?
You're not intimidated to talk to anybody.
I'll talk to a wall if you give me one. But I think even from perspectives of when I was looking over like interns that were coming in and they were like, is it okay if I go talk to Judy, or is it okay if I go talk to Seth? And I was like, yeah, just knock on their door, it's fine. And they were like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, say hi. And then that was it. And I don't think anyone's ever been like, no, you can't do that. So, and that's something that's uniquely Wonderman.
Take that.
I think
So this is a quick question to Seth. Very often CEOs are asked, what would you have done different? And they said, well, I would have moved on non-performers more quickly. So I'm interested in the honest discussion about this isn't working now, or it may not be working for the future in terms of the context of so much that's positive about U-Time.
Yeah, this is the reality that we live in. I think that we are trying very hard to be a high-performing organization. And that on some levels may feel like it conflicts with this very, I think, warm, caring culture. And I worry about that because people who are not helping us to succeed, we need to help them find a place where they can succeed. And I think we spend a lot of our resources making sure that people land in new environments productively. But we have to get better. I think we have to get better as an industry, and we are working very hard on managing people's expectations. Judy's point of no secrets. U-Time is a wonderful place to start a conversation with somebody, letting them know that they may want to begin to think about something else. So it's not a place where you get coffee and it's kumbaya, and it's a place where real conversations are happening, good or bad. We're not always good at tough conversations. You know, it's the reason we've gone away from performance reviews, because everybody is a 3.2 or a 2.8, right? Or conversely, if you go outside of a competitive environment, everyone's a 4.3, and then nobody has a developmental issue. So we're working very hard to make those honest conversations more about how people can succeed or not, and then how we can help them move on to that next chapter. It's super important for us.
And if we had more time, I'd share an exercise that Seth has garnered for us in North America about making sure that we are looking at our talent in a very honest, holistic way, and that we are taking action as appropriate and holding us to that. And that action may be terminations. Some of that actions has been moving people to other brands in WPP, which we've been successful. They weren't bad, they were just not right for us. But it's the accountability factor that Seth has brought to the conversation that has helped us. And for those who know any about WPP, what Seth has also done is made it, he's removed the barrier from managers saying, oh, I can't get rid of this person because I won't be able to replace them. Seth has removed that barrier, which has made it easier for people to upgrade their talent. So kudos to you for that, because that was something that was not done.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thank you, Keisha. Thank you all.